So I want to make a point about why Trump and Republicans are so screwed. But before that, I want to talk about a little MAGA town that screwed itself, like big time. Now, this is a town, as Fox News would tell you, in the heartland of America, flyover country. This is the kind of town that Donald Trump spoke to. The forgotten man is another phrase that Fox News likes to use a lot to describe these people who have been forgotten by Washington and who Donald Trump came along and spoke to and who fights for, and oh, they all love him for it. This is a town named Lexington, Nebraska. Now, I've never been to Lexington, but I bet you if I had been there in November of 2024, I would have seen a lot of MAGA signs, a lot of Trump signs everywhere. Probably a lot of pickup trucks with Trump flags flying off the back. Maybe some derogatory bumper stickers about Sleepy Joe Biden. You know, that kind of stuff. Certainly a lot of Trump yard signs. I wonder how many of those things I would see today if I went to Lexington, Nebraska. Anyway, I have an article here from the Associated Press. I want to read a little of this for you. Here's the headline. Tyson Foods plans to close a major Nebraska beef plant. Let me read just a little bit so you can see how Lexington, Nebraska is being royally screwed by the guy they voted for. In fact, they overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. So keep that in mind as I read this. How overwhelmingly, you ask? Well, 75% of the people who voted in last year's election voted in Lexington, Nebraska for Donald Trump. 75%, because remember, he fights for them. Tyson Foods' decision to close a beef plant that employs nearly 1/3 of residents in Lexington, Nebraska, could devastate the small city and undermine the profits of ranchers nationwide. So this doesn't just affect Lexington, Nebraska, but as we have seen in many stories that we've had this year about farmers and cattle ranchers, these people are taking it up the tailpipe by the guy that they overwhelmingly supported. And many of them will still tell you that they support, even though they're getting screwed. Never said they were a smart bunch. Closing a single slaughterhouse might not seem significant, but the Lexington plant employs roughly 3,200 people in the city of 11,000 and has the capacity to slaughter some 5,000 head of cattle a day. Tyson also plans to cut one of the two shifts at a plant in Amarillo, Texas, and eliminate 1,700 jobs there. Together, those two moves will reduce beef processing capacity nationwide by 7 to 9%. Consumers may not see prices change much at the grocery store over the next 6 months because all the cattle that are now being prepared for slaughter will still be processed, potentially just at a different plant, not in Lexington. Sorry, guys. But in the long run, beef prices may continue to climb even higher, caused by a variety of factors from drought to, you guessed it, tariffs. Unless American ranchers decide to raise more cattle, which they have little incentive to do. Hold on a second, my notes are flying away. Sorry, I've got more to talk about here, but I don't want to be screwing around with this paper while I'm trying to flip through this article. So I'll stick that between the knees. The pleasures of recording outside in the wind. Okay, so so the prices are going to continue to go up unless American ranchers decide to raise more cattle, which, because of the economics involved, they have little incentive to do. Thank you, Donald Trump, and good job, Lexington voters. Let's see what else I have here. Clay Patton Vice President of the Lexington Area Chamber of Commerce, said Monday that Tyson's announcement Friday felt like a gut punch to the community in the Platte River Valley that serves as a key link in the agricultural production chain. I'm beginning to think it was a mistake to record out here this morning. My hands are already frozen and the wind is picking up. Let's see if we can get through this. When it opened in 1990, the Lexington plant that Tyson later acquired revitalized and remade the formerly dwindling town by attracting thousands of immigrants to work there and nearly doubling the population. How are those immigrants doing in Lexington, Nebraska today? You know, it's funny. It seems the way they talk about it, it seems like they were proud to have all these immigrants. They doubled the population. It was a great town. And yet the guy they voted for pretty much declared war on all those great immigrants. And it's not just him. I mean, let's face it, the people of Lexington voted for that. But I bet they weren't voting for Donald Trump to round up all their immigrants. Apparently, they seem to like their immigrants. They just don't like anyone else's immigrants, I guess. I don't know. I can't follow these fucking people's logic. When the plant closes in January, right after Christmas. So sad. The ripple effects will be felt throughout the community, undermining many first-generation business owners and the investment in new housing, Patton said. Well, that doesn't sound too good. I wonder who those first-generation business owners in Lexington, Nebraska voted for. And I wonder what they think of their vote now. I don't know. Elmer Armijo was struck by how established the community was when he moved to Lexington last summer to lead the First United Methodist Church. He described solid job security, good schools and healthcare systems, and urban development. Now, what does he say? People are completely worried. The economy in Lexington is based on Tyson Foods. And now they're packing up and going bye-bye. Maybe all the good, God-fearing people of Lexington, Nebraska, should have thought about that before they voted for an incompetent 34-time convicted felon and adjudicated sexual abuser. Oh, also an insurrectionist and traitor. Just saying, maybe, just maybe, they should have thought of that before they voted for him. Anyway, you get the point. This article goes on and on. Bad news for the people of Lexington, Nebraska. And that is the direct result of the guy they voted for. So, since this still is a democracy of sorts, democratic republic, and since, we still are allowed to vote, votes have consequences. And so we could blame Donald Trump for all this, and he's certainly to blame. I mean, he's the one who's doing all these things that are screwing the people. But when you back it up and get to the real underlying problem here, what's the real cause here? Well, the real cause, the real reason why the people of Lexington, Nebraska are so fucked is because of the people of Lexington, Nebraska. They did it to themselves. This is what happens when you fuck around. You eventually find out. And that's what's happening in Lexington, Nebraska. Okay, I will move this along. I'll just say this. Tyson expects to lose more than $600 million on beef production this year. So I guess Donald Trump isn't really good for the cattle ranching industry. Who would have guessed? Anyway, oh yeah, between the knees. That's where I put this one. Okay, so I want to play a clip for you here of Laura Ingraham talking to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, I came across this little clip on Twitter this morning. Laura Ingraham had posted a tweet in which she said, among other things, that inflation is down, so why do Americans still feel squeezed? Now, if Laura Ingraham knew anything about inflation and prices, which honestly, she does. She's not stupid. She went to Dartmouth undergrad. She went to, I think she got her law degree from the University of Virginia. She clerked on the Supreme Court. She's not a dumb person, but she, she's on Fox News. She's got a show on Fox News. So she's got to play stupid in order to make stupid points. for stupid people. So anyway, see, she says inflation is down, so why do Americans still feel squeezed? Because, Laura, there's a difference between inflation and prices, right? They're not exactly the same thing. And although inflation is arguably down, and I say arguably because we're also learning that those numbers that this lower inflation rate that they just announced the other day is based on, maybe, at least in part, how do we say, bullshit. So we don't even really know if that inflation number is accurate, but just for argument's sake, let's say that it is, and inflation has come down a little bit. What does that mean? Well, it's still positive. The rate of inflation is still positive. And what is inflation? What is the rate of inflation? It's the rate at which prices are increasing. So maybe the rate of increase has slowed slightly, but prices are still going up. So nothing is cheaper. So what the hell do you mean? Inflation is down, so why do Americans still feel squeezed? Because prices are still incredibly high and they're still going up. But again, she has a show on Fox News, and do you think that the people who watch Fox News know the difference? No, they hear inflation is down, they think prices are down. Why? Because they're stupid. That's why they watch Fox News. Okay, so let me get to this clip from Scott Bessent. Watch this. It's not too long, but watch it. I have some important points to make on the other side.
There's great news on inflation, that big announcement about drug prices at the White House from the president. So I'm watching this, and things are moving in the right direction. But why are Americans still so pessimistic?
Laura, it's because of the affordability crisis under the Biden administration. There are two parts here. There is price level, and then there's the inflation rate. And the price level just got out of control during the disastrous 4 years of Biden. So stated consumer price index was up about 22%. Wall Street firm called Strategas has something they call the common man index, which is what do working class families buy? Groceries, rent, insurance, cars, used cars. That was up about 35%. So that big price level. Then there's the rate of change. And as we saw this week, President Trump, the whole administration have been working hard to bring down the inflation level. On a trailing 3-month basis, inflation is now 2.2%. 2.2%, which is moving towards the Fed's 2% target.
First of all, it's like Tourette's with these people. It's Biden's fault. It's Biden's fault. Biden's economy. Biden's economy. It's like the first thing. Like, usually you lead with your strongest point. Well, that is their strongest point. I mean, they don't really have any facts that are on their side. That's why they lead with it's Biden's fault, which of course is ridiculous because Trump said he was going to solve this all on day one. So we're almost a year into his presidency. How can it still be Biden's fault? But anyway, just shows you how screwed they are. They can't even message this well. That we're almost a year in and still really Biden's fault. If you guys want to ride that until the orange buffoon's out of office, go ahead. I don't think it's going to work very well for you, but yeah, you're free to keep trying that one if you want. Okay, so it's Biden's fault. And then I want to point this out. The Treasury Secretary says inflation is down to 2.2%. Now, even based on those arguably bullshit numbers that were announced the other day, the inflation rate is not down to 2.2%. It's 2.7%, right? That's quite a big difference. But if you noticed, he says, what did he say? Inflation is down to 2.2% on the trailing 3-month basis. What the hell does it? They're playing word games. Okay, well, 2.7%. How can we make it sound like it's lower? Well, let's say it's based on a trailing 3-month basis. Yeah, the people on Fox News won't know the difference anyway, but they'll just hear 2.2%, and that sounds way better than 2.7%. So let's go with that. And then finally, and this is the point. This is why Republicans and Trump are so incredibly screwed on this issue, because here he is talking about inflation is down to 2.2% and it's on its way towards 2.0%, which is the Fed's target. So that's like the most optimistic scenario. Like they're licking their chops going, oh yeah, if we can only get to 2.0%, everything will be great. What does that mean if we get to 2% inflation? If we get it all the way down to 2% inflation, what does that mean? Magas, any magas in the audience? I just explained this a few minutes ago. What does it mean to have 2% inflation? Well, it means that prices are still going up by 2%. So nothing will be cheaper, even under their most optimistic scenarios. And when it gets right down to it, that's the only thing people care about. You can go on Fox News and pretend that everything's great because the rate of inflation is slightly less, but that doesn't mean a damn thing to people shopping in the grocery store, because nothing's cheaper. In fact, everything is more expensive. And that's not what Donald Trump promised. He didn't say he was going to slightly reduce the rate of inflation. He said he was going to reduce the price of everything starting on day one. And that, my friends, is why Donald Trump and Republicans are so royally fucked.